You know what? Forget that. Y'all can watch the rest of our intro later at the end of this video. Let's just kick it straight into this video because there's so much we need to cover and talk about. So just fast forward straight to the good stuff. What's going on, y'all? We are the Cinema Fanatics. My name is Robert Adams.
Your name is also, you blew your mic up immediately as soon as you started talking. Also, my name is Chris Adams.
Probably. Technical things aside, there was a really good episode of WandaVision on last night or today, or depending on when you actually viewed it. Let's talk about this episode. Before we jump into that, we're going to. Sorry. I know.
Oh, okay.
I know. But before we jump into it, thank y'all, those of y'all that are here as we get started. If y'all have any questions, comments, make sure to drop those in the chat. You can also hit up the streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Also, remind you to hop on our Patreon, patreon.com/cinefanatics. We've been pumping out some good stuff there with our ranking videos. There's been our behind the scenes, some bloopers, a lot of funny stuff. We got some good stuff coming up also very soon. So hop on that Patreon, at least that Avengers tier. That's the right sweet spot for you. Anyway, speaking of Avengers, WandaVision. So what did you think of this episode?
This might be the best episode they've had so far, honestly.
Until next week.
Until next week. Oh, yeah, I mean, that's obviously, like, I'm loving each and every single one of these episodes more and more with each episode that we get. I think the reason why this is so good is because it's the great marriage of the first 3 episodes and then that 4th episode where we got to see, what was going on during those first 3 episodes from Sword's perspective. Now we're doing this back and forth thing between the WandaVision show and what's happening on the outside. And I love that because it's building up tension in like just the right way. Just the right way.
Yeah. And just got home from work, y'all, so I'm trying to catch my breath. This was a good episode. It was a good day at work, so that's how we're going into this. There was a lot of things that they did in this particular episode I didn't think they were going to do. There was so much I was like, oh, we're going to do that now, huh? Oh, that's cool. Whoa, wait, y'all are doing what? Like, we'll touch upon these as we get through it. But yeah, I mean, as far as quick summary, again, we're talking about that this is the merge of the real world with the sitcom. And we're seeing like what's going on with now that they have the kids that were born way too fast. What's all the shenanigans going on with them? While what is Sword trying to do to really figure out what's going on with this Westview anomaly? Yeah. I like that this episode brought us back to the openings that we've had of the first 3 episodes, where they all seem to be kind of based off of a sitcom. This one opened up with this opening, which is a complete nod to Family Ties.
Yeah,
but
real quick before we get too deep, guys. There we go. Just take this down for a second. Damn. Before we get too deep, guys. Just a reminder, in case you didn't see it in the title, this is a spoiler talk. We're going to be talking spoilers, Easter eggs, all that stuff here. So if you have not yet watched the episode for any reason, come back to this later. You're not watching this live right now. You're going to have to watch it later. Otherwise, be prepared to be spoiled or talk about the spoilers. So that's what's happening here. Okay, go back to what you're doing.
Some great spoilery content in this.
So. Oh yeah, you wanna have fresh eyes on this one.
So yeah, we saw that again, this Family Ties opening, and then it moved on showing like everyone as they were younger getting grown up, including Wanda. We got Vision with the baby Vision, and then they showed the kids, which we saw quickly aged up from like newborns to 5-year-olds. And that kind of set the tone as to where we're going with like now we're in the 80s. Definitely drew a lot on Family Ties. I know there was one part in the opening where it showed them running on the field, like next to the gazebo. They're running towards the camera while the camera's panning at them. And I was like, oh, that is so Full House. That is family running towards the camera at Full House. So I like that.
I 100% got the Full House stuff. I was like, man, maybe as we get like more into 90s, if we do 90s next week, We get a little bit of like I'm guessing they would go like full Family Matters, Boy Meets World type stuff.
Yeah,
which would be
at the point it's gonna be connected to like a TGIF type of setup, which that would be great.
It would make sense. I mean, because it's all within the ABC parent company of Disney. So I mean, TGIF was ABC's thing. So that'd be kind of a little throwback. Do we want to like talk about that cold open before the actual intro of the show happened? Because there's some stuff even in there.
Yeah, let's go to the cold open. That one was like it just started off at their house.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to take care of the babies, the kids, and was it Darwin? Vision is reading Darwin's The Descent of Man. Like, really? A Charles Darwin book to the kids? I granted, the humor is he's trying to make the kids fall asleep, but the thing I like about that is Wanda can't make the kids fall asleep, which is interesting.
Yeah, which brings up her line of, why won't you do what I want? And I think that's a very, like, right off the bat, it's a very important line, because I think the theme throughout this episode is Wanda really actually completely in control? It seems like it, but things are happening that are outside of her control. Multiple things throughout this episode happen that are outside of her control that she questions and starts wondering, wait, hold on, what? And so I think that line, like right off the beginning, sets up the tone, like, hey, we're moving in a different direction. We know that we set you up. It's all Wanda, but maybe we want to take this in a different direction than you thought with that, and we got you. So, yeah. Also, can we talk about real quick? The fact that Vision walked in with the binkies in his ears, but he had them just phased into his head.
Yeah, that was funny.
They weren't in ears; they're just.
But going back to like is someone else controlling this? That leads us straight into Agnes. Just walk straight in. Like she helps herself to walking into the house, which is funny because that was a major trope of like 80s sitcoms, like 80s, 90s. You had characters that would just come waltzing in whenever they felt like it. Like they had an open door policy on the house. Like you saw a lot on Full House, or I know Family Matters, like Steve Urkel would come over all the time. So Agnes just helps herself, and then all this weirdness with like the babies and stuff goes on, and she does that weird thing where she's talking to Wanda, but she brings up something that was a little odd, and she just stops and looks at Wanda like, should I take that back? Should we do another take?
What happened was that the situation is she was not expecting Vision to become more aware of his environment. He's becoming more aware of his environment, so he was completely off script from what she was expecting him to do, in which case Agnes was thrown off, and that's when she did that. Should we just take this from the top again? What's going on here? Which I think is a very interesting dynamic, because up until this point, we just imagine that people are being controlled. Their minds have been wiped or warped or whatever, and they are essentially having to do whatever Wanda wants. Which makes it weird that someone is stepping outside of that right now going, oh, well, Wanda, should we just do this scene over again? And it's like, within that world specifically, like for Vision, this is his life now. This is the world. It's like, that doesn't make sense, for there to be some self-awareness that it's a TV show by anybody. So that's I think that is kind of interesting with Agnes. There's a lot still with Agnes though.
And I do like her line of like saying that she refers to herself as Anti-Agnes, which is a callback to, I think I actually still have it. A callback to, was it the second episode that began? Yeah, the second episode that began with like the animated opening, like Bewitched and the grocery store. Again, looking at that poster at the back, it's that kitty litter that lasts is Annie A's. So a nice, again, callback to Agnes potentially being Agatha Harkness, which, I mean, she's Agatha Harkness. Let's all just, but a nice nod to that. But she says that Annie A's got some tricks up her sleeve.
Yeah,
nice little there.
The other aspect too that I love, and there's going to be a few of these things that I want to bring up that feel like I'm stretching a little bit, that I'm kind of reaching, but at the same time, we'll see how it plays out. There's a part where Wanda, where Agnes is going to like handle the kids, take care of the kids, and Wanda says, "You're a lifesaver, Agnes." And I'm wondering if that one small line has any kind of bearing over the potential relationship of Agnes and Wanda here. Like, what is Wanda doing? What has Agnes done? Is Agnes technically saved Wanda's life? Are we talking about Vision's life being saved? What's happening here?
And that's the thing with this show is now we're at a point where every single little thing could be scrutinized. We're like, oh my God, she took a breath. What does that mean? She ate a grape. Does that mean something? Like, what's happening here?
As example, she busted out the lavender, which if you know anything about lavender, obviously we have like essential oils and stuff nowadays, and we understand that she was right. It does have some kind of like relaxation properties to it, you know, if we like breathe it in aromatically and all that. But there is that tied connection to things like lavender and whatnot having a connection with like witchcraft and whatnot. So for Agnes to come out here like, I've got lavender just all of a sudden on me, it's like, okay, for that time, maybe she is a witch.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a side thing. Like, obviously, like we know, again, like the essential thing, lavender has properties, but not regardless. But it's just, I thought it was a fun little like, hey, she's just gonna offhandedly have some right on her because she probably uses it in her witchcraft.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what leads us into the opening that I've already talked about. Before we move any further, we saw Vernon dropped a super or Streamlabs saying raising money for silver hair dye. Anybody in? I would be in because I'm actually kind of curious with like a reddish brown beard and silver hair. How would that look on me? The problem is I work at customer service and I can't do that.
That's not the only problem. The other problem is that you are pasty white, and that would just look weird.
It would just accentuate the whiteness, which is what I got new lights here, and I think that's what they're doing also. So I need to turn up the light behind me. But also, I see a couple of new people.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a couple other things to say about the intro. But before we do that, let's highlight some of these comments over here. Mm-hmm. We got Cutter. We know Cutter. He was at the
Cutter at Showdown Live events.
Yeah. It's like, so guys, long time. Hope y'all are doing well. Love today's WandaVision. I lost my crap at the end.
So did we. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Rachel here. Hi everyone. Hi Rachel. And then we have a new face here, Glue. Too bad that Vision isn't really back. Are we sure?
Yeah, because this episode kind of revealed something that I was like, oh, that's how and why. It still leaves me another question, which we'll get to when we get to talking about that. But yeah, Richard Gere, a trendsetter again,
right? Wait, never mind.
I feel like we've been talking about Richard Gere a lot lately, but that's because of our next ranking video that we have coming out next Wednesday.
Yep, it was just fun because it hasn't hit the channel yet, and Rachel's already bringing up Richard Gere. Like, wait, it's connections.
Yeah.
How? Before we dive further, I love that Agnes had that line before themes. Kids, you can't control them no matter how hard you try, which is just the line necessary to be like, oh, someone's highlighting the fact that Wanda can't control everything. Again, this is going to be a theme I'm probably going to bring up through a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that means that Agnes is just like fully aware that Wanda doesn't have all the control because she has a little bit of the control.
So this brings me into a question that I had going into this episode, and I don't feel like it was fully answered, but it's amazing that you have characters like Agnes, who obviously is aware that she's in some kind of a show by blatantly asking Wanda, hey, do you want to do this again? Do you want to take it back? Like, Vision's not supposed to be this self-aware. Do you want to redo this and make sure he's not aware of what's going on type of thing? We've had their neighbor Herb when he was sawing through the wall. He was trying to tell Vision Like, hey, this is all because we're, and then Agnes is like, dude, you can't mention it. Shut up. So we've got people in Westview that obviously know what's going on, but then you've got some that I guess don't. For example, Vision and his coworkers, when they all get this email from Sword. All the coworkers kind of turn into like zombies, all reading it in the same monotone voice. And then we've got where Vision is trying to dig into his coworker's head and snaps his coworker out of like whatever trance he was in. Like it snaps him out, and the coworker turns around and says, "We've got to stop her," something like that.
Yeah. So obviously, as we go through this episode, we each took our own notes over the kinds of things that we're seeing here, and obviously, your notes are further on than mine.
Well,
I got a ton of stuff still before we get there.
Well, I jumped over that just because it comes back to what we were saying at the beginning, there seems to be some people that are controlled and some people that aren't. So going back to, again, Agnes at the beginning with like, do you want me to start this over?
Right.
Like I'm trying to figure out what's the full explanation as to why some people seem to be okay with it and some aren't. Or some people are aware and some people aren't.
Vernon, does the word necrophilia mean anything to this series? Probably not, actually. And again, I don't think that Vision is still dead. We'll get there. I don't know if you noticed in the actual theme in the intro, they are keeping the same WandaVision in there. It sounds a little bit different each time because the decades change and the style of sitcom intro music changes, but they're still keeping the same structure, rhythmic structure to the song. I thought that was funny. The other stuff I wanted to bring up quick because there's like lyrics within the intro that we need to highlight and touch on too. Besides the fact that you got like a baby Vision there, which makes no sense and kind of lends to the does Vision actually remember anything that happened before his life, before he died, essentially, which it sounds like later on when he talks about it, no. So it's kind of funny that a life is being made up for him, essentially, within the intro of the series. But I like a couple of the lyrics here saying, "Forces may try to pull us apart, but nothing can phase me when you're in my heart. Making it up as we go along." And I'm like, all right, you guys aren't even trying to be subtle anymore. You guys are just like, hey, this is exactly what's happening in the show.
This is the level that you should already be aware of where we're trying to take this show. So now you're just we're playing with you. So
yeah. And then like off the intro, I don't know if you had anything else to touch on in the intro at all, but
no.
So off of that, they did the first switch over completely to real life, the real world within the MCU, and I think that was great because you have the sitcom intro, like, okay, we're back in sitcom and everything. Then fresh off the intro, boom, nope, we're seeing the aftermath of Monica, having flown out of the Hex.
Yeah. You got Darcy is officially calling it the Hex, which is back to all the rumors about the Hex, whether it means AIM or honeycombs or this, that, or the other, or it just means Hex as in like the witch Hex thing.
All the above.
Yeah. And then we realized that like you've got like Monica's outfit is still the same 70s look, and they test it, they shoot at it, they realize it's that 70s looking outfit made of Kevlar, so anything that comes out of the anomaly is still the way it looked in the anomaly, which is what leads them into sending an 80s type drone in, so therefore it kind of meshes with the world and really isn't noticed that much.
I do like though that they were saying like we need to take Monica's scans again, draw her blood again because everything came back weird. It's not like I guess the machine's broken. Machine's not broken. Monica has superpowers.
Yeah.
I don't know if we know this, but her character is Photon in the comics. I know we touched on an earlier episode because Photon was the call sign given to Maria Rambeau. But that name actually belongs to Monica Rambeau in terms of her superhero persona. So I think that's
she was also a Captain Marvel at one time.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely going to play into it a little bit. But I think we have here, which is the first instance of us questioning, is Vision actually still alive? Because we saw the footage of Wanda breaking into Sword to steal his corpse.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know what to think about that yet, because I know a lot of people are theorizing that the Vision that is in WandaVision is essentially just a corpse puppet, that everybody in the world around him, all they see is all they see is this corpse floating everywhere. Where in real life, or not real life, in Wanda's head, what we're seeing is the actual Vision. That freaks me out if it's just a corpse of Vision just floating around everywhere, you know?
Well, that's something that this solidified too, because before this episode, all we could think of is like, if Wanda's recreating this entire world, she may be recreating Vision within this world. Now we've got this hint. We know that she went into Sword to steal Vision's body. I can't remember if they actually said she was successful at getting Vision's body out. I don't know if they actually confirmed that. I think we're just led to believe that she went in after the body and now Vision's here. She could have been unsuccessful, and so she is just making him up. Or she was successful. This is Vision's body, and she is basically working him like a puppet and that's why we saw in the last episode with him looking deadsies.
The implication is definitely that she was successful and got the body, though. And that's what we're led to believe, and that she is reanimating the corpse again, which is fascinating.
That's great. Now, how did she get the Mind Stone? How is the Mind Stone in Vision's head? And what if it isn't?
It's not.
Yeah.
So the Mind Stone wouldn't be. I think it comes back to the fact that and I'm sure I have this somewhere in my notes, but it comes back to the fact that both of them came from the Mind Stone. Essentially, the Mind Stone is the reason why Vision was alive, and the Mind Stone is the reason why Wanda has powers to begin with. It does come back later. I know Vision at one point says to her that we used to be of the same mind, and now I'm not sure anymore. And I'm like, oh, they were of the same mind. Stone. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny, but it is interesting. I do think that my theory right now is that she was somehow able to bring him back to life. I mean, he is a synthezoid. He's not actually a human. You can't dictate whether he has a soul or not. It's more of he had an artificial life of sorts that she's able to just recreate and bring back. She's got the power of the Mind Stone within her powers. So it far be it a stretch to say like, oh, within her power range, she can actually just bring him back to life. Which might be something that I would have to assume that she's worked on for a while, because she seemed very distraught when almost killing Thanos in Endgame. That he literally took Vision from her. So she might not have been aware that she did.
Didn't they mention that in this episode, that they go back and they say that Wanda is so powerful she actually could have probably taken out Thanos by herself?
She almost did if it wasn't for the blitz that he sent onto the field.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is like this is starting to slowly like ramp up to showing that Wanda is as powerful as she has already been in the comics. In the comics, she's recreated universes and like changed everything, like eliminated all the mutants and stuff. This is the show trying to reach that peak level and show us like how strong and powerful she could be. And I think that's what's getting a lot of viewers, is a lot of people just don't know that. They don't realize that she has that kind of power. And so that's like going into this, if you know it, you're like, oh, I bet you Wanda's like controlling everything. She's recreated a universe. because we already know she's capable of doing that. People not knowing the comics, they don't know that. So that's where a lot of the surprise of this could be coming from.
Yeah, they don't realize that Wanda's essentially like one of the most powerful characters within the comics. So
yeah. Let's say real quick also before we continue, those of y'all in the chat, again, thank y'all for being here. If you have any input, I know we're kind of like cherry picking bits and parts of this. This was a crazy episode. We're kind of all over the place instead of going like in one linear fashion, just how things may connect to one another. If there's anything that sounds like something that you have seen that you wanna verbalize in the chat, let us know so we could also be aware of it, and then we could also be talking about that over this as well. There's only 2 of us here on this video, so we might not have seen or caught everything. If you did, let us know so we can all be aware of it also.
And if you want to make sure, if you definitely want to make sure that we do see your comment too, remember there are Streamlabs up there. You can send it in there, and we will definitely 100% see it there for sure.
Yeah.
The chat might get away from us sometimes, so just in case, boom, there's that available to you too.
So
the other thing is that I love how like comfy Agnes is with these kids like aging up.
Yeah, and that's going back to what I was saying to begin with. Like some of these people are familiar with what's going on in the world, and some of them aren't. Some of them look like they're actually being controlled. So that's what I was wondering. Like, what theories do we possibly have for that?
Well, so you touched on it with like Norm. So Norm in the office, Vision had to snap him out some power ability to snap people out of the situation that they're in with Wanda, or we assume Wanda. He has the power to do that. So my question is, he didn't do that for Herb in that last episode in episode 3. What Herb was able to do the whole we're all and that's and we brought it up. Agnes is like no don't do that. But Vision didn't snap him out. Vision didn't do the touch the head snap him out thing. So this comes back to what was. For me, and I brought this up in one of the earlier episodes, what was it that Wanda was doing? What was her mind and focus completely on when Herb was sitting there having that conversation with Vision? And was Wanda completely distracted that time and couldn't have control over Herb in that situation? Which is what I think is happening. Whereas in this episode, Wanda essentially sent Vision off to work on a Saturday to take his mind off of things, as she says, which means that she has control. We assume she has control. We assume she's controlling things. She has control over the people who are in that office, meaning at that time, Norm is fully under her control. So is the fact that Vision was able to snap him out is what leads to the whole why are some people aware and some people aren't. It depends on what Wanda's able to focus on at that time. Is her attention on keeping those people focused? I don't know. That's the way it looks to me in this situation. And of course, we're assuming Agnes at this point probably can operate outside of that. Although, if you guys watch the trailer, we're probably going to get a little bit of Agnes getting snapped out of something here later too. So who knows where that fits in all this? But I guess we'll find out in a later episode.
Yeah. So there's, basically in the trailer, she's dressed as a witch, I guess, when they're all dressed up for Halloween, and Vision snaps her out of it as well. And she's like, where have I been? So like, that's what I'm wondering is like, could she be a person that's being controlled by Agatha Harkness in that way? And that Vision snaps Agatha Harkness out of whatever this random woman, Catherine Hahn, whoever.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought too.
Theory.
Because I mean, we got another look at the whiteboard back in Sword, and she still doesn't have a name, so they still haven't figured out who she is. And I'm amazed that they haven't actually said anything about that in the show yet. Because you think the amount of time that they've already been spending at the Anomaly site, they're like, hey, we should probably take a look at this person that we haven't figured out who they are yet. That might be important. Although they could be just completely distracted by the fact that they now believe that Wanda is the sole victimizer. So
I feel like the full reveal of Agnes being Agatha Harkness is probably going to be saved for like the last episode. This is probably going to be some kind of like an antagonistic battle between her and Wanda. So that might be interesting to see if that's what happens, even though Agatha Harkness in the comics is actually a good person who's trying to help Wanda. So
right here Glue says she got her power from the Mind Stone, so it's easy for her to somehow recreate it in her fantasy, talking about recreating the Mind Stone in Vision's head, but that's also the reason why he can't survive after she loses control. The only thing that sounds pretty close, but the only thing I would argue against that is, let's go back to Monica's outfit coming out of the anomaly and still existing as it was within the anomaly. It obviously they're talking about it's made of full Kevlar, so it was taking what she was already wearing and just kind of morphing it into something new. But it retained its structure, it retained what it was within outside. Just same as that jump rope that got pulled back out of the sewer. Everything that comes out of there retains what Wanda is doing. The wall itself is not the barrier to what's real and what's not. I believe it was Monica said everything within there is real. So everything that happens in that town right now is being created, is being real. Which is why her kids are actually real. The twins, they are real. Everything created in there is real. So in this situation, that's what really pushes me to say, can Vision exist outside of it? I do believe he can, which tells me he's probably back to life again. And she can do that without having the Mind Stone in his head. Now, the question becomes, is she needed constantly in order to keep him alive, or can he now exist independently of her power? If she goes off, she's somewhere else and not thinking about him, is he still alive? That's the question I have.
And we've already seen something like that in the trailers, where we've seen Vision at the wall of the anomaly, and he himself is trying to push against it, trying to figure out what's outside of that.
Yeah.
So we might be getting that one pretty soon as well. And that's I feel like that's going to be the big one that answers like a lot of questions when we find out what exactly is Vision's limitations within this world.
Yeah.
I want to jump back into a couple. I want to jump back into a couple of things with Sword, but I want to.
There's a couple things here I want to like speed run through here in a little bit. I got a couple things to speed run through.
Yeah, I know we've kind of like hovered around a lot of like main topics still, kind of like at the first half of the episode, and I want this stream to chutter along real quick. But real quick, also going into the Streamlabs. Cutter Hale has dropped us a Streamlabs saying a couple of things. One, Norm doesn't say Wanda. He just says she. He just says she's. I've heard rumors that Dottie might be involved. Yeah. She's. Norm. We don't know who she is. Norm says make her stop. So we don't know if he's in reference to Wanda or potentially even Agatha Harkness at this point.
Yeah.
And then we still don't know anything about Dottie as well. Two, the argument between Wanda and Vision, I think, is both Olsen and Paul Bettany's best acting moments in the MCU. And do you think there's a bigger cameo coming potentially? It just really depends on what direction this is going. We've touched upon a lot so far.
I like, because like outside of this, Elizabeth Olsen has said there's a Luke Skywalker and Mandalorian level cameo coming, which right now we would think is the Pietro at the episode situation. But like, who's to say that Doctor Strange doesn't show up by the end of this series? Because this is supposed to merge right into Multiverse of Madness. So I don't know if I would call anybody in the MCU showing up a Luke Skywalker level cameo, but put in perspective and context of what she's trying to convey, it could be either one of those. It could be Quicksilver. It could be someone who's going to move this right along into the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah. So going back to Sword, we saw Monica got the X-ray. The X-ray looks blank. There's a huge nod towards that she's got powers. And then there's a couple of things, like Monica at one point was saying that she knows a neurospace engineer that could help. I'm wondering who that could be. No, seriously, I'm curious as to who that might be.
A lot of people theorize that she's talking about Reed Richards, which that's the same situation as what when Eric Selvig in the first Thor was talking about he knows a scientist who knows gamma radiation. He was talking about Bruce, obviously.
Yeah.
Or was he referencing something else and he was talking about Hank Pym? I don't know. But either one of those are situations where it's like you're referencing somebody extra outside. We haven't seen Reed yet, but this could be our first nod to Fantastic Four being in here.
Yeah. And then Monica also seems to not really want to discuss Captain Marvel too much. Like they brought up Captain Marvel's name and she was like real quick to be like, yeah, I don't want to talk about her. Like at all.
Yeah, she's not happy about the idea of Captain Marvel. For whatever degree, maybe she's not happy that Captain Marvel wasn't able to stop Thanos and therefore ruined the ability to have her last moments with her mom kind of situation. That
or
would mean
maybe there was something that Captain Marvel did that is what affected her, what affected Maria Rambeau, possibly.
That's what I think. I think it's the fact that Carol wasn't on Earth when Thanos was to essentially go after his head instead of Thor. So
yeah,
she could be kind of messed up about that.
Yeah. And then I want to quickly, briefly touch upon. Well, before we get into that, I did want to say one of my favorite moments of this is going back to the drone being sent in. Yeah. The drone was sent in, as far as Monica knew, just for reconnaissance. But then you got Tyler Hayward is actually shooting missiles out of it at Wanda and her family. This does not make Wanda happy. And so she uses that time to step outside of the anomaly, which was great. Like, that was a great, like, oh, crap, like, they're actually going here type of moment that,
yeah.
Now we're this far in, and all of a sudden we see Wanda's coming back to the real world. Not only that, but when she steps out of the anomaly, she's got her accent back.
Yeah.
Like, that was cool.
Yeah. That was fascinating to me because that's like, okay, where has that been? Like, obviously she lost the accent. Has she just been intentionally hiding the accent the entire time? Or what was happening there? But that's not a little bit of character stuff for her there. Now, what I like about that though is if you're like listening to her when she's talking, you immediately think that she's speaking in a tone of anger. But what I heard was that it sounds like there's a sense of desperation, which leads me back to the theory that maybe she's aware that she's not completely in control, that somebody else is above and controlling the whole thing, which there's more to touch on that again later on as well. And maybe that person is threatening her family, other people, lives of others, and what she's doing by creating this anomaly is actually keeping the people within the town alive and safe, so to speak. Maybe she has heroic intentions the entire time, and we're made to think that she looks like a villain right now.
Yeah. I absolutely love that part. I'm kind of thinking the whole thing with the accent is, if you look back like at the TV shows the sitcoms are trying to emulate, really, I'm not that familiar with there being too many like Eastern European accents in those TV shows. Most of them are all like just straight homegrown Americana type of an accent. And so therefore that's what she's trying to do. She's like, well, there was no Sokovian accent in these TV shows, so therefore there's no Sokovian accent in my recreation of them. But absolutely. And thank you for the super chat. But yeah, the scene where when she stepped out of that, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome.
Cutter also said real quick, if they bring Reed in, it would be great, but they would need to reveal. I don't think they're actually going to bring Reed in. I think they just made a nod to him. So I don't think they have to cast anybody for it yet. I think they just nodded to his existence.
It was like Winter Soldier when what's his face was reading off names that S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra's interested in. He said Dr. Stephen Strange. Sidwell.
Yeah. Sitwell. Yeah.
Sidwell.
Let's see.
What else? What do we want to talk about next? This was a good episode.
Actually, yeah, there's a lot that I can just like rapid fire. We touched on pretty much. We've touched on most of everything. The other thing, this might be fast forward. No, this is actually when they're going after Sparky. Which, by the way, Sparky the dog. Reference to Vision's dog in the comic books. There's a storyline where Vision has an entire family, and he's got a little Vision dog. Same thing. That dog's name within that comic storyline is Sparky. So that's where that's actually coming from. Fun little nod. I like when they go after the dog though, and the mailman stops them and goes, "What's wrong, kids?" Like, "Oh, our dog got away," and he's like, "Well, I bet your mom won't let him get too far. Have fun, kids," and then walks off. There's the part where you're thinking like, "Oh, your mom's got this. She's a lady. She's a lady who knows what she's doing. She can handle a situation." But really, it's no. Your mom won't let the dog go too far.
Yeah,
she can get your dog.
No, we have not talked about the ending yet, so that is still coming here in a little bit.
We'll be talking about it in about 3 hours. No, I'm just kidding. We're not gonna be. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So the thing, probably before we start talking about the ending, because the ending is one whole. There was a lot to unpack out of the ending. But before we get into that, we were blessed with another commercial in this. This commercial was good because this was one that I don't feel like this commercial was really hiding anything. This one was a very strong wink and nod to, if you're familiar with the MCU and what's been going on, you know, like what this commercial is referencing. And that was for the Lagos paper towels.
I wouldn't call this a wink and a nod. I'd call this, hey, this is what we're doing. Pay attention.
Yeah.
It's not even a wink and a nod. They just blatantly told you what they're doing here.
What do they say? Lagos paper towels. When you make a mess, you didn't mean to. Huh? Yeah. So going back to Wanda basically being the cause of Civil War, accidentally causing that building to explode with when she shoots up crossbones up into the air, causes a lot of deaths, unfortunately, in Lagos. So, yeah, great reference. I love that. I don't know if
the other thing. Well, say the other thing about these commercials, we touched on this before, but there's a rumored theory, or there's a theory out there that the two individuals, the man and the woman in the ad, are her and Pietro's parents.
Yeah, which we were told was Irina and Oleg Maximoff, which I tried doing research on that, and I don't know who they are.
No, because in the comics we're talking about at one point they were the children of Magneto, then they weren't, but are they? And it kind of goes back and forth in the comics a lot of times. So I don't know if these two characters actually have comic origins, so to speak. Yeah. But what I like about it is if you actually stop and look at them, based on how close they can get within casting and everything, I actually believe that Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen could be the offspring of those two individuals, just in how children look like their parents, kind of the situation.
What we're trying to say is we're stereotyping these two individuals and go, yep, those look like people that would come from Sokovia. That's exactly what we're doing here. They look like Sokovians.
Yeah, it's totally what I meant by bringing that up.
How dare you? Don't stereotype Sokovians that way.
Sokovia's not real.
Whatever. Sokovia's not real. Next thing you know, you're going to be telling me Wakanda's not real. Whatever.
No, Sokovia doesn't exist anymore. Ultron destroyed it. Moving on.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we got that fantastic commercial. There's a theory about the commercials that a friend of ours posted online. I don't really want to dive too much into it until I see like a little more about it, but it's a really interesting theory. And if we get a commercial on next week's and it seems to lean in that direction, we might bring this up. Just because that does look like where it might be possibly going. And it's really, if that's what they're doing, that is a mind-blowing thing. But
I would say, I'd say if one more gets confirmed, we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah. But I think, are we ready to start diving into that ending?
Well, so the first part of this that I want to bring up is that with the dog, when the kids are asking Wanda to bring the dog back to life, and she was like, I can't just bring things back to life, and she was looking very nervous while saying that because she possibly did bring somebody back to life, and he walks into the scene immediately after she said that, which is just like, oh, perfect timing. But what I like about that is it kind of throws back to where to put it down. Kind of throws back to there was something earlier where she was talking to the kids earlier about the dog and how what was it? No, hold on. I'm mixing myself up.
In the meantime, while he does that, let me introduce my cat that just sits here and stares off into space for a while. Like, thoroughly entertaining, isn't she? Lola. Oh, there you go. She does respond.
There was a part where
thank you for vamping, Lola.
There's a part where she kind of did the opposite, where she was saying something about death or something like there was something that it was funny that Vision walked right into the scene at the same time that she was talking about it. So it's kind of like a parallel situation that was happening. I could have sworn I wrote in my notes, but I don't want to waste everyone's time by me sitting here and trying to fumble through them. So to talk about, so it's a fun little thing that I picked up.
That would be like basically in this kind of a sitcom situational comedic part is where someone's like, man, it's a good thing there's not a carton of eggs laying around. Like, hey, guess what I just found outside? A carton of eggs. Like, it's that kind of a weird situation that is, it just so happens to be that way. I mean, cue the Alanis Morissette ironic again. But I mean,
isn't it ironic?
That's what that is. So let's see what else we got. I know this is a lot of like just reading back on stuff.
Yeah. It depends on if you're ready to talk about starting with the conversation that Vision has with Wanda at the end, because that's where kind of the proverbial S hits the fan.
Yeah. So after all the hijinks that's been going on in this episode, Vision is questioning his reality. Wanda's completely stressed out by these kids that have now aged themselves from 5 to 10 to prove that they're responsible enough for a dog. Agnes seems to be completely okay with everything that's going on. And Wanda just wants it to she's realized that her world is starting to get outside of her grasp. She wants it all to calm down. She's ready to end the episode. And Vision is not. So we get this where like the credits actually start rolling on this, which was fantastic. The credits start rolling. She's like, all right, well, let's go to bed or let's go watch some TV or whatever. And Vision's like, no, we're not done talking. We're going to discuss this. We're going to handle this. And like we actually saw, we see Vision, who again's a robot, an android, synthesoid, showing emotion. Like he actually starts yelling at her to the point where he's like bowing up and like superpowers are starting to come out.
Yeah. What I like about this conversation though is it starts with him talking about him talking about his interaction with Norm, and that Norm's got a family. Norm's got he's in pain right now. You're hurting him, and she's I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand what you're talking about. And then he's something to the effect of he's like, I do believe. Thanks for putting that up in the middle of my sentence. Appreciate it. Throw me off. He talks about everything could have been in Wanda's subconscious at first, but now she's aware of it. Where in their conversation, she talks about, I don't even know how this whole thing began. obviously there's two different ways. We think that maybe Wanda isn't trustworthy and that she's just trying to keep the lie alive to keep Vision believing it and everything. I really don't know how, but at that point, it sounds like she is actually diving into it, going deep. Like, I don't know how this began. And it's like, no, there's something going on and I don't know how it started, but I kind of like it. And I kind of want to keep it going. Which goes back to, is there somebody else in control? Does she know it? And is she okay with reality being where it's at? Because if she bucks the system that she's in right here, people start dying based on the whim of whoever's in control. Maybe she's just trying to keep people alive and keep them safe. That's part of what I'm thinking there. Because it definitely sounds like something is out of her control here. She is speaking to something being out of her control. Vision's trying to get answers from her. She can't give him answers, so she's just trying to sweep it all under the rug. She can't give him all the answers he needs because she doesn't have all the answers herself.
And so throughout this whole ordeal, she's panicking. She's losing essentially control. Going back to what you were saying to begin with, is a lot of this crap just happens to hit when she is seemingly being like, look over here. And then something else happens over here. She's being distracted by this. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word distracted, but whatever. She's being distracted, and that's when something else just chaotic is happening somewhere.
Vision's got her focus in that moment. And then all of a sudden, ding dong.
Yeah, all of a sudden we get the doorbell rings, and what was it? Wanda says something like, I have no idea who could be at the door or why the doorbell's even ringing.
Well, so it's a high tense situation between the two of them, and the doorbell rings. So Vision's automatically just assuming, okay, she's just trying to get us away from this conversation again. She's just trying to distract and divert. And that's when she's like, no, I didn't do that. I promise I didn't do that. I know you can't believe me right now, but I'm telling you I didn't do that. So she's into that conversation with Vision. That's, again, something happening outside of her control while she's focused on the conversation with Vision.
So they go ahead to answer the door, and we are all blessed with something very tricky and sneaky that Kevin Feige has cooked up for us, and that's by sticking Evan Peters Pietro at the door. Like,
what?
So here's the thing. We knew going into this, we knew before the show even started, that Evan Peters was going to have a role in this. And we're all sitting here like, that's going to be funny that the guy that played Quicksilver for Fox is now going to be in a show with Wanda, like essentially his like sister in Interdimensions, something like that.
He's back in the MCU playing the same character again. That's hilarious.
But yeah, we had no idea who he was playing. And then, of course, there was the rumor once we saw that these kids were coming and the kids were aging up. We're like, maybe he's playing the grown-up version of Speed because that would be a nice little nod. No, he's playing Pietro. But a different take on Pietro.
And there's like at least a whole 2-hour conversation embedded into... Where did this Pietro come from? Is it really Pietro? Did he come from the Foxman universe? Is he existing somewhere within the MCU? What's happening? There's a whole lot of stuff to dive into on just where he came from and what he's doing, how he's there. To put it simply, I truly believe that, again, we're looking at a situation where Agatha Harkness is in play here. She's controlling some stuff. She's manipulating some of the reality around Wanda. For what reason? Maybe she's working for Mephisto still, and Mephisto's still in play here.
No, she signed the contract for the Fox and Disney deal. That's why.
She's the one that created and signed that contract so that we could have X-Men characters in the MCU. Thank you, Agatha Harkness. We appreciate that. The interesting thing, though, is that, like, okay, are we actually looking at the Pietro from the X-Men universe, or are we talking about Evan Peters is just playing a Pietro Maximoff that isn't actually his Pietro Maximoff from the X-Men universe, but he's not really a Pietro from the,
MCU.
Was it the Earth 616 is what the MCU's universe?
The MCU says that they're Earth 616. While those of y'all that are into the nerdy stuff of comics, Earth 616 is the normal, regular Marvel universe in comic books. So they're trying to say that they're the new normal, which they're not. They actually have another number, but within the context of the MCU, they're Earth 616.
Yeah. So we're talking about this Pietro potentially coming from legally a different universe than the MCU was. That's fascinating to me because I know that's like freaking everybody out. Like they're actually doing it, actually connecting back to properties that had nothing to do with the MCU and almost kind of really ran concurrently with the MCU. So it doesn't like we were talking about the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver and the Evan Peters Quicksilver existed at the same time. First Class and its preceding movies were happening the same time as Age of Ultron and all that. So we had two different Quicksilvers within like theatrical release window of just a few short months back in that day. So it's kind of interesting that they are bringing him back in now. The other question is that the Foxmen Quicksilver, or is some other random citizen of this town just being mind controlled?
Yeah, kind of like what I was saying earlier, that Agatha Harkness or Agnes may be Agatha Harkness possessing this random person's body type of thing, and that's what we see in the trailer of her driving the car dressed as a witch. That Vision snaps her out, and that she may not actually be her physically. Catherine Hahn's face and whatnot may not actually be Agnes or Agatha Harkness. She's just a vessel. And Agatha Harkness, that goes back to say this. I feel like there's not an episode of this that goes by that we do live streaming that I can't show this picture, but Agatha Harkness is this older woman. So it's completely possible that she's still this older woman, like in the comics, and she's just kind of possessing the Catherine Hahn Agnes vessel.
I mean, she's been around for like 1,000 years or so it makes sense.
Something like that, yeah. So could this be the same thing that's what's happening with Pietro here, the Evan Peters Pietro?
It's possible because it's public knowledge that this movie does move into the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So everyone's initial thoughts are, oh, multiverses. He's coming from another universe. That must be the explanation. I'm not quick to say that they are actually going that route yet. I think right now this is, for storyline purposes, a very cute casting. A very, oh, isn't that fun what we did just now kind of a casting situation. But I don't actually believe that this is the Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men property. Because I think that they are diving into the multiverses just quite yet. And if they do, it probably won't be till the very last episode of this series. I think right now we're looking at somebody else who has a different name, who got possessed somehow and brought in just the same as everybody else in the town is.
Yeah. I do like when they showed him, though, that you had Darcy was watching and she's like, did they recast Pietro?
I love that line. Oh my gosh. I love that
this because within the context of the MCU, we've actually had actors recasted. Bruce Banner, Rhodey, they've been recasted from previous movies, and there's been very little actual mention. Like there was nothing saying like, why does Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner look nothing like the Bruce Banner from The Incredible Hulk? Or
Edward Norton. That's weird.
Yeah, Edward Norton. There was that throwaway line in Iron Man 2 that I absolutely loved when they showed the new Rhodey, like, it's me, I'm here, deal with it. Yeah. So they've done like some slight nods, but this was like a first right out, like, they recasted Pietro.
And I love that line. I love that Marvel can get away with this stuff now. Like the MCU just, they have put in the work so much that they can get away with murder and we'd all be like, okay, cool. Looks good. Sounds great. It's like, no, they just killed a person on screen for everybody. That person really died.
I don't want to see this. I don't want to. I like horror movies. I've seen all kinds of weird things in horror. I don't want to see this.
Obviously, I'm speaking hyperbole to make a point, but
the Marvel Cinematic Universe snuff film.
Oh, gosh.
Directed by Eli Roth.
Talk about left field. No, they really can get away with anything. And it remains to be seen. Coming up episodes, I know next episode, I'm super excited for next episode just because we're probably going to get more of this Pietro and find out, maybe get some answers as to where he came from, or get a little bit closer to finding answers as to where he came from. That's probably going to be the big tell for me. Are they really actually now? They are right now getting into the multiverse aspect, or are they still just keeping it? This is just the hex shape is Wanda's reality that she's creating right now. It's not really a multiverse yet.
What I'm wondering is, do you think that they're going to take from this episode and immediately jump into the 90s? Or do you think that we've got Wanda's kind of like thrown off right now and that she's probably going to keep it in the 80s for another episode while she tries to figure out and deal with why Pietro is all of a sudden back?
I don't know, because from what we've seen, especially in that mid-season trailer, if anybody saw that, it looks like there's a part where she moves into, like, I think the sitcom, it looked like it was parodying was like the Modern Family style, where she's like sitting in her home talking to a camera. She knows that she's talking to a camera, which is a very, very fascinating concept for what they've built so far. Yeah, which that would tell me that's like the 2000s. That moves into like the 2000s style sitcom, which I think we still have yet to see like the 90s. I don't know if we saw the 90s in any of the trailers. I would expect to see 90s next episode, and then like the 2000s after.
I believe the 90s. The 90s is the Halloween.
Possibly. I think the situation is based on the theory that we might bring up next week, that there's at least 2 more decades that they probably need to cover before they just kind of break off the whole sitcom thing completely. And it's just all hell breaking loose, and what Sword versus Wanda and what's happening and culminations and all that. Yeah. But yeah, I would expect 90s next week. But we'll
and then we got 14 Little Angel was saying, I really think this is how Marvel's going to introduce the X-Men. That would be interesting. I know Kevin Feige has said that they're not in a huge hurry to introduce the X-Men into the MCU, but my favorite is I want to go back to J.J. Abrams going, no, Khan is not in Star Trek Into Darkness. Like, I don't trust a single thing any of these people say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it might be, it might not, but
the idea is to keep you off the scent. I think at this point, unless the writers are just complete geniuses, which, let's be honest, at this point, the writers in the MCU are complete geniuses. The only possible way I could see X-Men coming into play in the MCU now, this late in the game, will have to be a multiverse kind of a thing. They're going to have to spawn somehow out of a multiverse. Or if they do what other people think might happen, which is a reverse House of M at the end of this show, where Wanda says some form or variation of a "let there be mutants," which right now makes no sense to me. Why would she just say "let there be mutants"? But that it might be that kind of a situation where, you know, she speaks a word and all of a sudden people start mutating everywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely a lot of possibilities. I'm eager to see with next week. Hey, those of y'all watching, if y'all have any other final thoughts, questions, comments, get those in real quick. We are going to be wrapping this up. So any other thoughts, let us know. Yeah, so the next couple episodes, they definitely look like they're going to be interesting. I am wanting to find out. I feel like a lot of this is really hinging on what Sword is going to find out, because there are the eyes and ears of us as the audience. I mean, quite literally, Darcy is watching the show also. Yeah. So there are eyes and ears. There are linked to what is possible, like them posting all the pictures of everyone in Westview with their driver's license and whatnot. They have that connection. I want to see what else they could possibly be developing. Also kind of curious as to why this Tyler Hayward was so eager to shoot Wanda with a missile when and he's so quick to, like, in this episode, he wants to call her a terrorist. Like, why is he like just so like mean and like militaristic against Wanda when she really hasn't done anything to fully deserve that yet? Like, this is still something that needs to be investigated and researched.
For me, he's got some very like Thaddeus Ross vibes to him. Like, I get it. They did some good, but I don't like these heroes out here. I think they need to be put into control and somehow. And that's when he's like bringing up the Civil War stuff and like Wanda's a weapon. Wanda's evil. We don't like Wanda. Okay. I think his purpose there is just to push this narrative onto us, the audience, that Wanda is doing things that are dubious in nature, which I'm thinking it's the look over here, don't look over here, don't look over here, look right here, don't look back here, for us, the audience, which is she is actually being a hero still. She is trying to keep people alive. She is trying to keep people safe. Something else is going on, and she's doing her heroic duty, essentially.
Yeah. I did like this. They're like, does she have a nickname? Yeah. No, not that I know of. She doesn't have a nickname at all. She's just Wanda Maximoff, just no nickname. And that did remind me of something else real quick. There were, like, roughly like around the mid part of this, towards the end, Wanda did say something about how she's tired of hiding. Yeah. And seemingly it looks like she's just tired of creating this whole facade that she's making. So yeah, she seems to be breaking. She looks like she's going to be breaking down. So that might be leading into other stuff. I like this idea too. When the Avengers traveled in time, they changed some things. That's also why Peter Maximoff is Pietro. Yeah. Well, Peter in the X-Men, they didn't really refer to him as Pietro in the X-Men universe, but that's why he's at Wanda's door as well. I mean, possible.
At this point, honestly, like, anything is on the table until they really start giving us some answers. You know, speculators going to speculate out here. Anything can be on the table. I really don't think that they're touching multiverse yet, but dude, here's the thing. I could be wrong, and I'm totally okay with that, because I want them to tell this story the way they want to tell this story. I don't want them to tell this story the way I think, hey, this is how it should go. Because prior to the show starting, watching the trailer, we had no idea what this show was about or what they were doing. I'm just along for the ride. Mm-hmm. I have thoughts, but I'm along for the ride. So
I do like the word of mouth this show is getting. A lot of people are coming around to it, especially those people who gave up after like the first 2 episodes just because they didn't like the shtick of the sitcoms. And now they're coming back going, whoa, this thing's actually doing some things I had no idea it could do. And now they're sticking around because this is what's going to help continue these MCU shows that they're pumping out. And if they all have the level of quality that this has done so far, they're all going to be fantastic. So, and we'll be doing these like review talk-alongs, whatever, about all of them as they come out as well.
I do think the only thing I'm worried about, like, too much of the Foxmen being brought into the MCU, is that I'm really eager for just a fresh new X-Men cast. I want to see a new Professor X. I want to see a new Wolverine. I don't want Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, or, you know, in any of these other, like,
James McAvoy, Fassbender.
Like, I don't really want to see any of them. Like, obviously, I'm somebody who didn't necessarily want to see Luke pop up in The Mandalorian either, but when he did, I freaked out. I was like, cool, it's Luke, it's awesome, that's all neat. So, I mean, if any of these people pop up, I'm probably going to do look, hey, it's Professor X, as we know, that's so neat kind of a situation. But I really do want to see a fresh-faced new X-Men cast.
You have a weird way of reacting to things, man. It's so neat.
That's so neat. Oh my goodness. It's so cool.
Yeah. Anyways, Cutter Hale with the $4.99 super chat. Final thoughts. I think Tyler might have a vendetta against Wanda. Yeah, I think so.
Probably.
We just don't know what yet, or why, or to what extent. So happy Evan Peters is back. If it's the intro, if it's the X-Men intro, it's a fantastic start. I mean, possible, because the X-Men did also time travel. So I know after they did their like little time traveling thing, we did get that Dark Phoenix, but I feel like I speak for everyone who's watching this and any other future videos. Dark Phoenix probably didn't exist. Just saying that movie.
The first class era of X-Men movies did not exist past Days of Future Past.
Yeah. Yeah, we could probably like wipe out a lot of Apocalypse also while we're at it. So
wipe out who? That didn't exist.
Wipe out the Apocalypse.
Yeah. Today we are putting an end to the apocalypse. I'm butchering that line. Pacific Rim. We are canceling the apocalypse. That's it. Yeah, we don't talk about that. Nope. Shh, we don't talk about that.
Anyways, guys, that is it for tonight. Man, this was a big episode. I absolutely loved this episode. I still can't wait to see what they're going to do next because, they've got to top this. This is going to be getting better and better as it goes on. And I like what they're doing with the story. Like they've got me hooked. So, yeah. Anyways.
Was it? This was episode 5, right? So we got 4 more episodes, technically speaking, give or take. However, they decided to do the last episode from what rumors and stuff are saying. But as far as we're concerned,
saying there might be a secret like 10th episode or so.
That would be that's so meta, and I wouldn't put it past them to be like, oh, there was a secret 10th, whatever. I honestly could see like the 10th episode being like the Mandalorian behind the scenes type situation for this, which would be really cool to see. I would actually love to see that. That would be really fun, like a little docu series episode about the making of. Yeah, I'd be into that. But yeah, 4 more episodes, which means 4 more episodes of this little ditty that we're doing right here until I think honestly Falcon and Winter Soldier starts pretty quickly after that.
I think it starts like the week right after, so there's no break. We're just gonna move straight into that because that looks good too.
So we might want to look into doing a graphic for that here pretty soon.
I will do a graphic for that. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank y'all for watching. Those of y'all in the chat, thank you for being here, a part of this. Thank you for your input. A lot of great conversation. We very much appreciate y'all being here for this. Hope to see y'all again next week as we're talking about the next episode right here on our channel. So make sure you drop us a like. Make sure you comment, share this video. Let people know. Come back and watch. Let's interact. Let's all talk about this. Did you find Easter eggs that we didn't see? Let us know so we can be like, oh yeah, that's awesome. So come back.
If you guys are new here, please subscribe also. Like your subscription really helps out the channel a whole lot. So please do that as well.
Yeah. Also, one more time, plug in the Patreon, patreon.com/cinefanatics. We've got some good stuff coming out on there, including like we've been doing the ranking videos so far every Wednesday for the past couple of weeks or so. We've had bonus footage from the last 2 that we've done was the MCU heroes, MCU villains. There's bonus content over on the Avengers tier on our Patreon. Go check that out because it's also got some really funny bloopers attached to that as well, and they're a lot of fun. So,
because believe it or not, we're not perfect when we put cameras on ourselves. Believe it or not, yeah.
Even in a live setting, just who knows. So go check that out. We do have some more stuff coming up. Real quick, we can plug towards the end of this month. So we actually have the day selected, correct? Yes, we do. On the 27th, Saturday the 27th, we are looking at doing our Patreon watch along of Coming to America, the original Coming to America, getting prepared for Coming to America, dropping on Amazon Prime the following like Friday or so. So come back or hit up the Patreon at the whatever the $5 tier is for that. And then you could join us for watching Coming to America. That's going to be on the 27th. More details for that to come on Twitter. That would be Cinefanatics MLP on Twitter and Instagram.
The do tier on the Patreon.
The do tier. Cool. Also, Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. That is the tagline, which I don't have my graphic. That is the tagline. That's the show where we talk about movie news and stuff coming up. That's a lot of fun for interaction as well. If y'all have like some thoughts, feelings, opinions, some movie news drops you want to hear us talk about it, come back Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 7:30 Pacific or 10:30 Eastern. That's our big flagship show. So come back, watch that. Anyways, anything else?
I think it's gonna. Oh yeah, Vernon popped in there too. We're also doing fun little movie trivia on the Patreon too. So that's another thing that you can hop on the Patreon at the that one I believe is the Maverick tier, right above the Avengers tier. So that's where you come hang out with us, and you got trivia that you want to study, you want to get good at movie trivia, you can do that there. You want to quiz us and help us get better at movie trivia for reasons, you can do that there as well.
No specific reason in general.
That's a lot of fun stuff there. So you can follow on Patreon and do that as well. That's going to be coming up here this month as well. We got one of those that's a specific Patreon dedicated like trivia night. We'll probably do some of those here and there as we have time as well. So
yeah. I would love to do tagline earlier. It's just typically on Tuesdays I work, and we're doing tagline almost the second I get home from work. So we're trying to squeeze it in as early as we could possibly get it. But yeah, as this channel grows and I no longer have to rely on when I get home from work, then we could probably have it done earlier. So anyways,
yep.
Anyways, thank y'all for watching tonight. What? Anything else?
You're doing good. Close it.
Cool. Thank you all for watching tonight. It's been a lot of fun having y'all in the chat. Again, follow us at Cinefanatics MLP on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow my brother over here at Chris Adams MLP on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, thank y'all for watching. Y'all all have a great evening. We will see y'all on the next show that we do sometime. I don't know when. Bye. Later.